Pronto, agora eu vi que rolou a vinheta direito. Começando mais um Sem Ensaio aqui. Acho que é o nosso segundo Sem Ensaio internacional com grandes estrelas aqui, mas primeiro eu vou apresentar os companheiros de bancada. O Mário, que vai dar o seu recado.
Também somos estrelas, né, Luiz?
Aham.
Sigam a gente nas redes sociais, Terra Brasil, Terra Entreter, Cucamonga Insta. Lembrando que esse podcast é uma coprodução entre Terra e Cucamonga, dos meus amigos aqui. Então segue a gente lá. Se você não deu aquela valorizada das 5 estrelinhas no Spotify, eu tenho certeza que depois desse papo de hoje você vai super valorizar a gente. Beleza?
Do meu lado direito,
Hablando inglês. Hoje.
Rodrigo Lima.
Muito obrigado aí, pessoal. Muito obrigado.
Por que falar em inglês?
Ela estragou já a nossa apresentação. Grandiosa Cat Graham aqui.
Muito obrigado, Cat. Thanks for the time.
Não, de nada.
Superstar. Nós vamos agora virar a chave, começar a falar inglês mas vocês têm a tradução assistindo no YouTube, vocês têm as legendas, a tradução simultânea. E I'm going to start. I was telling the audience that I was turning the switch to English now.
Yeah.
But you were saying before the interview that you speak a lot of languages because of your background. Your parents, everything.
A lot of travel.
Yeah,
a lot of travel.
A lot of travel. Can you tell us?
Dating international men. No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
that's
kidding.
fine.
We were joking.
Can you introduce yourself this way? Like, why do you speak French, Hebrew, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese?
Well, I'm kind of a mutt. So I'm half black, half white. I was born in Switzerland and raised in Los Angeles, basically like immigrant parents.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, on my mom's side, they were all like Middle Eastern and spoke Hebrew. And then my mom also lived in Europe with my dad, and both of them were fluent in French. And you know, I do my best, but I think you really get better at languages when you're just traveling. Like, it was important to just come to Brazil. I'm like, I know my Portuguese is going to get real good because I keep coming back here now, so it'll be great.
That's cool.
And also, in your career, I think you followed their way because we live today in a very fragmented world, like with a
Feels
lot
like
of with a lot of giant bubbles, and you move through 3 different giant bubbles, on music, on acting, on the humanitarian cause. How do you move through these different huge worlds in your career and in your life?
I think the main, I guess, I don't know how to say essence in Portuguese, but it's all the same. Like, you come from the same place with everything. It's like, if you want to empower people, you would do it in your music, you would do it in your acting, you would do it in how you choose to volunteer your time. It's just always has to come from that place, or else I just don't really want to do it. That's kind of, I think, the biggest thing.
But you work all the time? Sorry.
I do.
You work all the time, every day.
Sometimes I
you're
stop
too
and
young
I eat
you work.
brigadeiro. I take a break.
Brigadeiros.
Yes.
Sometimes you sleep, you eat
Sometimes I
brigadeiro.
sleep, I eat brigadeiros.
What did
Pão
you...
de queijo.
Pão de queijo.
Pão de queijo.
What did you like the most in Brazil?
First of all, the people.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean of food? Oh my gosh. Don't get me started. No, the interview will be way too long.
No, don't worry about that.
No, I love it. I love all Brazilian food, but especially you guys have a thing like in America, like black folks, we love peanut butter. Like,
Peanut butter.
we fuck with peanut butter so hard. So the fact that you guys have really taken ownership of the peanut is really
peanut
like, I mean, I
projectors.
already loved the passion of Brazilians. I love the freedom of Brazilians. I love the like rawness. I haven't met one Brazilian that wasn't authentic, There's already the energy of Brazilian like life, even in like old school film and TV that inspired me, and dance and a movement, and how the women are very like, they own their power. But then the peanuts came into the situation, and I'm just like, yo, I'm meant to be here.
Yeah. We know what to do with peanut. Yeah, I don't know
Rub
if
them
this
all over my
this
body. What's that? What's that?
good.
What's that?
I don't know if
peanut?
this was
the
a good.
candy.
This sound weird.
It sounded weird. Yeah.
Paçoquinha.
Paçoquinha, the best food
I've
ever.
had like 10 of them.
Yeah, I believe we have.
I'm literally
here.
paid in paçoquinha.
Paçoquitas, paçoquinha amor, all kinds. I
Yeah.
love
Oh
them.
yeah, that's it.
you
What
should-
else is that's life?
You should try
I'm gonna
pé de
get
moleque.
a new tattoo. It's gonna be the paçoquinha guy.
Yeah,
With the little eyes and the legs.
The
like,
little peanut.
yeah, that guy
Smiling.
is going right there.
Yeah, paçoca in Brazil is mostly for vegans, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a food that vegans
Very
adopted.
protein.
Yeah,
Tons of protein.
And
Everyone's getting in their Christmas.
Have you tried
basket.
açaí?
Yeah, I
The
make
real
acai.
one.
What do you mean the real one?
The real one without guaraná.
I don't know. They have
It's
the
from Belém,
acai,
from the north.
Amazon brand
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that gives back to the rainforest. They have a huge thing. They brought it from Brazil, and I make it at home. Usually every day.
You make it,
I
Yeah.
make the acai
But-
balls.
but pure açaí with peanut, with paçoquinha.
Now wait
Yeah.
a minute. Now wait a minute.
That's
Yeah.
Now wait a minute.
That's damn perfect. That's the
the best?
champion's food.
That's the rock star
that's-
food?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Açaí
a-
with-
The artist
Açaí
too.
with paçoquinha, I never had them.
Yeah.
Yeah, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Or
I'm Brazilian and I didn't taste
Shame
them.
on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Give
not
me your
happy.
Brazilian card because I'm more Brazilian than you.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Well,
And
Oh,
this
please.
time you're here for the music. You are
Yeah.
releasing a new EP, a
Yeah.
new single. And can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So I wanted to do a different kind of sound. And it had been a couple years since I released a record. And I wanted to kind of reintroduce myself in a way that was, that could really kind of bring the masses together. And also, I wanted to bring something to Brazil other than just like,
And why first Brazil? Because of this energy, because of this détournement.
well, the original idea was to do an international album. And the first record that I had made for the international album was for a Brazilian artist. It was actually to pitch to Anita. But then the record, when I was in the studio, started to become, I don't know if it was like Depeche Mode, Pat Benatar. I was listening to a lot of like those kinds of artists. And I think I just went into a vortex of 80s rock, pop synth, power vocals, and I stayed there. And I separated the EP from the international album. And I said the international album needs to really celebrate, like, if this, I have a song for Brazil, but it sounds like it's for Brazil. It's got the things that, like, I remember I sampled something from Orpheus Negro, from like, it's one of my
Orfeo
favorite
Negro.
movies. Yeah. You like City of God, obviously. You
Yeah.
Sim, claro.
yeah. So like I really made it for Brazil, and then I made a record for India, where I'm using the sounds from that place, and I wanted to really celebrate each country with that kind of record. But for this EP, because I had to separate it creatively, sonically, as an artist, change sounds, it became this kind of pop rock synth sound that needed to stand on its own. And I was also going through a really hard time. I think a lot of us have had a pretty difficult 2023. It was really hard for a lot of us. I lost my mom. I was dealing with the end of a relationship. I had friends that I thought would always be by my side. Everything just kind of went, like everything just exploded. And the only way I really know how to deal with that is through my art. So I started to write. And if the international album is about peace, I would say the Broken Hearts Club is about like inner war and conquering that. So that's
You're a producer too. You
Yeah,
do
yeah.
your own sounds in your bedroom.
in my
Computer.
bedroom. I have a studio in my house.
Studio.
Yeah, I have a
sorry.
studio in my house. No, yeah. I started making beats when I was about 14 years old.
You're a sound engineer.
Yeah, I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So watch out. I'll take your job. I'm an engineer, I would say, like first, and then a beat maker second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dancer first, an engineer second, a beat maker third, and an artist fourth. So understanding of everything starts from how it moves in my body, and then I can start, writing on top of that. But yeah, I'm a nerd. I don't look it, but I'm a total nerd. I need to know how things work. I need to be able to not need anyone, but I also have an incredible producer that I work with, Jeeve, who is a total rock star and plays like every instrument. And so I just, it's important. I think a lot of pop girls, unfortunately, the way it exists in America is that it's just kind of songs are given to them. And I was stuck in that label system for a while. Hey, here's this song and, go do it. I'm like, but I can make my own, but it was like some weird system that I'm grateful I got out of.
You created all your songs.
I've written all of them.
All your songs.
Roxbury Drive I co-wrote with Babyface.
Okay.
And then the Love Music Funk Magic album was the record that I'd started working on with Prince. And I finished on my own. But yeah, I like to write by myself. I'm working on, I'm excited now to work with more international artists because there are certain things that are happening in Brazil that I don't know about that need to be, spoken up about. There's things that are happening in Africa. So I want to make sure that the people that are from that place have a voice on my records.
Yeah, different culture, different lives you need to understand.
Yeah.
And you worked with many artists such as John Legend and Justin Bieber. Tell us a little bit about this.
And Prince.
And Prince, of course, the one of the
Prince,
biggest.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your co-production with these guys.
It's hard to work with them. Or...
Well, there's like two different parts, right? So like John Legend, who I've actually worked a little bit with in the Recording Academy because I'm governor. So when I was a kid, not even a kid, like a very young woman, I did like a lot of music videos because I was a backup dancer first. So I was like backup dancing for Missy Elliott and Pharrell before I kind of took ownership and decided that I needed to engineer and figure out how to make beats. I haven't really worked with many people other than like Jeeve, Prince, and Kenny. It's just been really them just because I had come from a label system where I was handed records. And some of them were great writers. Like this guy, Matthew Coma, he wrote the song Graffiti. These guys are unstoppable. They're so good. But, the industry was changing. Like my label folded. I went to Interscope after A&M kind of, and I just wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to go back to like the records that influenced me. Everything from Massive Attack and Sigur Rós and like listening to those records. That's where Toro Gato came from, which was all very kind of trip hop, cool stuff. And then I jump genres, because I like to. So I'll do a 90s R&B record, or I'll start listening to all of these different kind of artists that have influenced me, and I don't want to say I don't need anyone because I do love musicians. I don't always love producers, and I think people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're cute and you can dance and do this," and I'm like, "Fuck off!" Like no, so. Yeah, it's really it's been them. But I've worked with a lot of people, and I know a lot of great artists, and I get to work with a lot of great people at the Recording Academy. But in terms of who gets to actually like, who I write with, I'm picky. I mean, I even remember there was a moment with Prince where he's like, he gave me a song and I was like, well, I want to write it with you. He's like, I can teach you how to fish or I can fish for you. I said, no man is gonna fish for me. So he would teach me how, and we would sit and he would go and we would go through line by line and say, change I to her, or and he would look, I won't say which artists we pointed out, but there were certain female artists that he wanted to make sure I didn't do the same things as, and to make sure that I communicated in a way and didn't like overly sexualize myself or exploit myself, because he was exploited in that way. So there's a lot of those kinds of things that, you know, even when I can say I've worked with people, I haven't necessarily written with them because I'm stubborn, you know. So even with the greatest, so that's, I don't know if that's a good thing, but you know, I am who I am.
And you should be on C6 Festival lineup early next year.
What is it?
Yeah, it's a festival here in Brazil with different artists, and there's Air with Moon Safari confirmed, Patti Smith confirmed.
Wow.
So, yeah, you should be on.
I want to do it.
Yeah.
Nikki, we got to do it.
Yeah.
We got to do the
C6
festival.
Yeah.
C6 Festival. I'll be there.
And yeah, from your perspective, ever since you got this massive success with graffiti,
And the show, I think
Yeah.
that was a huge part of it.
12 years ago, how did you see your career turning to improving, and how do you see your music in the last 12 years from graffiti to this new single to this new EP?
I think
Makes sense.
I think a lot of it, yeah, it makes sense. A lot of like music is such a self-discovery, you know. I started off in the gay clubs, and the music that I made it started off dance pop, called my gay pop, you know, and that was how I started. And then once the label imploded, I was like, let me go back to the beginning of my journey. And then I've since been catching up to my life. So I started off listening to Babyface and Boyz II Men and New Edition and 112 and all of these records when I was, you know, 9 or 10 years old. So I'm like, well, let me go back to what first my understanding of music was. Harmonies, like that. Let me just go back to that. And then from then I was able to then do, you know, right after that, I mean, during that time of promoting that, that's when the Prince call came. And he was like, well, let's, you know, tour. And I'm like, you're doing funk right now. Like, that's not going to make sense with what I'm doing. So let's just start working on the funk record. And so he was the one that introduced me to funk and to like Larry Graham and Sly and the Family Stone and all of these records that I had never heard of before. And Giorgio Moroder, right? So it went from like funk into like disco, right? So I started to kind of like understand even, you know, through like guitar licks and the different strumming and even like the Stevie Nicks and like this kind of like, you know, I'm going through like these eras in music and discovering them parallel to my life. And then after that, I wanted to do something that, right after that, during that time, I would say that's like 2016, I lost Prince and I couldn't.
We all lost him. Yeah.
We all lost him, and I was in a dark place. Still am. And that's when Toro Gato was born, out of this kind of like, let me go back even before 90s R&B, when I was like, I would run around with David Blaine, you know, the magician? Do you know the magician?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And he would ask me like for like beats and stuff. And we were like, you know, friends when I was like 19. And so I would make these like weird beats that would make sense for his magic shows or his specials, just to do it, because he was the only person that thought that I could do it. So I went back to those records like way before, and I brought them back because they carried that, you know, all that kind of the Massive Attack, the Portishead vibe, and brought that. And then after I discovered that, and I was getting through this kind of really dark place where I was over this Cat Graham identity of having to be this like teen pop person or this label person, like the one person that really saw me and believed that I could be an independent artist, and myself was gone. So the idea, I had to shed my even understanding of myself. And then after that, I started to be like, okay, well, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what do I want to do in music? Like, who am I? What do I care about? And I'm like, why? I care about human rights. And so I went back and did this Long Hot Summer album, which was all very like, it was a partnership with GLAAD. And then after that, I was like, well, let me sit back. It was like, I think all those records kind of came out like 2021, 2020. And then I looked at the state of the world and I was just like, well, if I don't have anything to say, and if I'm dealing with like the loss, because then at that after Prince, I lost my brother who was shot. Like the world was imploding. Like it was just crazy. My mom was getting sick. And then I was like, let me write a song about what I'm going through. And then the lyrics of the Broken Hearts Club is, my mama taught me how to walk alone, right? Because I lost her, My daddy taught me how to let you go because he was really not really in my life, even though I'd like to say that I spent a lot of time. I mean, he's fluent in Portuguese, so it would have been perfect for him to be with me. But, sometimes our parents, it doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. And then my brother taught me that no matter what, you're all you've got in the end, because he was really by himself at the end of his life. And putting the truth into music was the key for me. And that's what this new record is. And then dealing with the inner war and the conflict and the heartbreak and the losses in a way that the world can even dance to was like, okay. And then after that, it's my peace album, the activists and the local artists and like bringing the world together. And then maybe after that, I'll retire.
No, don't do that.
And I'll just go back to being a housewife and making açaí. That's what my husband wants.
With paçoquinha.
Yeah, paçoquinha, and just having a bunch of babies. So we'll see. We'll see the journey.
And that's why you are a goodwill ambassador.
That's probably one of them. One of the reasons. Yeah.
You went to Congo and you were named the princess of so I don't know.
I've done a lot. Yeah.
You went to Africa.
I'm a princess.
You're everything.
Really?
You're almost everything. You're
almost.
a singer, a dancer.
I'm almost Brazilian. I'm almost Brazilian.
More Brazilian than me.
Yes. That's okay. We'll work on that. I have these titles, and I worked with the refugee agency. We have a mission tomorrow. We're going to go to I didn't want to come to Brazil and not do what I...
Where are you going?
Not do what I do. We're going to a women and children's center. And then we're working with some Congolese refugees that were brought, that came here to start their life new, and they're like these incredible chefs. But I'm excited about the Women and Children's Center, so I want to make sure that I also highlight, Brazil, not just for the music and the stuff that I'm eating and wearing and the kids, but also like the community, and make sure that I do my job and why I'm here and stay consistent. So that's where the UN flying in. Mm-hmm. The UN is flying in, and tomorrow we're on mission all day, and then Sunday I'm just like running around Sao Paulo with my little Brazilian captains to shoot content and
with Congolese kids.
The Congolese kids, they'll be. I'll be with them tomorrow. So, but I've been doing refugee works for like 14 years.
14?
13, 14 years. I don't know now.
Why did it started? Yeah, I mean, is there something that happened that?
Lot happened.
Yeah.
Lot happened.
I know you have a lot of influence on Black Lives Matter and all of this, but the humanitarian cause, why did it happen? Why did it start in your life?
Well, my grandparents were refugees. So I look at people's parents and I'm like, wow, like your grandparents didn't flee for their life? That's so great. Like, what's that like? And, but my dad, my grandfather was like a high level diplomat in Africa, in Liberia. And he's from Liberia. And he was lined up on the beach to be shot because the Charles Taylor regime was like taking over, and he fled for his life, and he fled to Switzerland, and he ended up becoming an ambassador for the UN, which is actually a coincidence. I didn't get my title because of him. He had long passed before I even got to the UN. My mom, because my dad and I and my mom, we were all estranged from my father. My mom cold called the UN and said, my daughter wants to come work for the agency, because her mom had fled the Holocaust. She would like hide under the stairs when the Nazis were coming in. It's just crazy. And I just always felt that it was almost like I made a deal with God, and I said, listen, if there is a way, if you ever build me up and give me a microphone, I'll do my work. I'll do my job. And I did, and I am. And a part of it was honoring my grandparents, because I wouldn't be here without them. I mean, they barely survived, you know? So I liked, you know, I'm not a refugee, but I'm 1 degree away from being one. And every day with what's happening in the world, I could be a refugee tomorrow. You know, there's just, I looked at my friends in Ukraine, and I look at, you know, my friends in Lebanon right now, and you know, I have my cousins in Israel. It's just like at any moment it could happen to me. That's why it's like so important that I keep doing the work, because I don't believe that what happens to someone else couldn't happen to me, because I know loss. I know the feeling of losing what represents home for you in the deepest ways. So, you know, I want to stand behind what I believe is the right thing to do.
Yeah, in Brazil, Brazil is a country of refugees, immigrants, and people from Africa who was brought here like slavery. And we understand what you say because of the history of the country.
And that's why the music is so important
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why when I think of like Brazil and I think of freedom and the colors and the rhythms and dancing in the street and really enjoying food and life, that's why it means so much to me, because it comes from such a, you know, so many people had to work for that freedom. Brazil represents so much freedom for me.
Yeah.
How many times did you come to Brazil?
I've come, I think this is my 4th or 5th time. I think by the time I come back will be maybe my 6th.
Yeah, you'll be here.
And then I'm going to keep coming back.
Yeah, you'll be here next year for your tour. Cat
Yeah.
Graham Takes Brazil. This is the name.
That's not the name. That's the thing that my friend Roy decided to put on the
it's
flyer.
a good name.
It's not the name. I don't know
That's
the name.
not the tour name.
I think that tour would be maybe the Broken Hearts Club tour. I think that's what it is. But no, that's not. That's just a flyer.
and you'll be here in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah. I'll make sure you guys have some tickets set aside for you and your
March
family.
21 in São Paulo and
The
March
22nd.
22,
Right.
So yeah.
second in Rio.
In Rio. I'm
Rio
so
de Janeiro.
excited. Rio de Janeiro. I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be dancing to your music.
Yeah.
I'll try
We'll see
to.
how Brazilian you are by the way you dance.
I need to understand. I need to be more Brazilian. Until your
Mario,
concert.
he's a break dancer.
Yeah.
Are you really?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
Don't do that, Rodrigo. Don't do that, please.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I could do a little breaking.
Really?
Too.
Really?
I used to love Chaka Khan
Oh yeah.
and Michael Jackson. And
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I got a bunch of friends and we used to break together.
That's
But
awesome.
until I was 12, and then no more.
Almost
Yeah.
selected for the Olympics that we had the breakdance on
The Olympic Games, yeah.
street
There were a
dance.
couple dancers that got onto the Olympics that were super sus. I don't
Yeah.
know how they got on there, but there was some ridiculous things happening.
the
I'll be in the
Australian.
next
Yeah.
Olympic Games.
I think you could make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mario could be an Australian break dancer.
Probably better than. Okay. So you talked about Michael Jackson, and you'll be
I'm in the movie.
in the movie that it's going to be released on April 25,
That's what they tell me. I don't know what's going on over there, but yeah, that's what they tell me.
and you.
I'm playing Diana.
Yeah,
Diana
Ross.
Diana
Ross.
Ross.
Which is funny because I literally went through my Diana Ross phase for the Love Music Funk Magic album where I was just doing like big hair and disco, and that was my Giorgio Moroder phase. So, you know, to be kind of back in those pants, those sequin pants was really interesting. I was like, I've done this before. But it's a little different playing someone like her, because she, even the way she spoke is different than me.
Very different.
She's like lighter, and she's, you know, she talks like this. She's much smoother than I'm like rah, 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 you know what I mean? Like I'm not as like she's much more graceful than me. Like I look like that, like a cupcake, but I sound like a steak, you know? so yeah, she just being that was a lot of work.
What do you think it's more difficult for you, like being an actress or being a singer and composer?
Depends who I'm working with.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, when I was on the label, it felt very hard to be a singer because I felt that I had no control over what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, what kind of records I would record. I would literally like get picked up, I remember, from Coachella and then brought into a studio to go work with somebody I really didn't want to work with. Like there were moments like that where I'm like, but now I really love singing because I'm like putting my heart and soul into it. So it feels like this is what, you know, to do, you know. And there were moments when I've shot projects where I was dealing with stuff behind the scenes and even in front of the camera where I'm like, this is like, I don't want to do this, you know. And then there's certain things where I'm like, this is a really great character and I think this is going to help a lot of people. So it depends on the project, you know. Some days like nothing, I just want to eat and hang out with my dogs and stay home, you know.
You're really going to retire?
I say that after every album. No, I think I'm just, as long as I'm inspired, I'll keep creating. For sure.
And how do you decide? I mean, you were famous because of your acting in Vampire Diaries and works with CSI and all this stuff. And you were famous on music. How do you decide to? I
don't think I'm famous. I actually forget. Thank you for telling me. When people approach me in the street, I think they need something or they're lost, you know. And I know really, and I just get kind of like, or I assume it's because of what I'm wearing, you know. But I don't like. It honestly takes me a second. My husband can't stand it. He's like, why, you know, put your mask on, or you know what I mean. Like he's just constantly like telling me to navigate it. Why do I think what?
Yeah, how do you decide? I want to do this movie or this participation on acting, or I want to make music now. And how do you turn from these different parts of career?
Oh, I think I'm like, if I said no to a movie that was going to be shooting during this time because I wanted to be here in Brazil. And I knew why I wanted to be here in Brazil. And I knew what Brazil meant to me, and I knew what's, you know, owning my voice meant to me. And I chose to be here because I thought that the song and even like the performances and giving back to a country that has done so much for me was the right thing to do. And that's kind of how I'm navigating stuff. Like, I'm like, is this the right thing to do? Does this feel good in my soul? And it sounds kind of ridiculous and maybe not the smartest business approach all the time. But if it feels right in my soul, I do it. And if it feels like, oh, it's just a paycheck, I can't do it. It's almost like if I just do something because it's a paycheck, then my like blessings go away. Like the gift, the fame, everything goes away. You know, my ability to create real change or even be inspired to like write songs or hear melodies, I think all of a sudden it'll get really quiet, because I think artists really get to tap in when they're coming from the right place. So that's it. I just follow my conscience.
And the question, where do you see in 5 years, doesn't make sense for you, right?
Well, I know I'm always going to be like in the field, in the refugee camps. Like that I know. I know that I want to be someone that's like brought a lot of people with me. I just, even like there was a fan who just messaged me on stories yesterday that he did an acoustic version of like my song Secrets with Babyface. And I just invited him to come on stage with me during the show. So I hope that everything that I do, I'll have brought people with me and that I've elevated people with me. That I know I'm doing. I don't know how I'm doing it. I don't know what, like the inspiration. I don't know where it's going to come from. But I know if I do become an even like a bigger star or have bigger projects, whether it's like a movie or like an album or a show even, it's going to be because I brought people with me. That would be the only deal that I would make, I think.
Whoa.
Great. And we were talking about your career, and you were known as Bonnie in Vampire Diaries. We know you in CSI and The OC and Hannah Montana and everything.
I did do movies since then too.
Yeah, but I was...
You know me from Hannah Montana? You're a fucking liar.
Stephanie knows you in Hannah Montana. She saw you there in Hannah Montana.
Yeah, old school. It's where I met Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you, when did you start? And when did you decide to... Because you were... I don't know if this is correct, but I believe you were first known as an actress.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, but when did you decide to explore your other gifts?
Talents.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to release a song. I'm going to... I don't know. When did
Have you
decide?
been to art school in the U.S.?
Just to no, I just went to Musicians Institute for engineering because that was the only thing I didn't know, and I think my mom was pretty tired of me calling Pro Tools crying. Digi 001, if you know, you know. So the moment I think happened, I don't know what happened. It was probably like I was really tired. I think actually one of the main moments happened when I was in Brazil. Because we shot the Fanta commercials here, and I was a Fanta girl. So the wanna Fanta, don't you wanna? We shot that here in Sao Paulo. And I remember, I was a teenager.
When was that?
Oh God, it was way before Vampire Diaries. It was like 2008.
No, just Vampire Diaries.
2007 was Black Eyed Peas, right?
Yes, it was before then.
Before that.
It was like around then.
Okay.
And I remember that the Coca-Cola team really listened to my ideas and empowered me. Everything from the costuming, I got to name the other girls. Like, they really empowered me, and I was very passionate about this brand because I had a vision for it. Even for like the music, everything, the dance. We were working with this guy Travis Man. I think the moment in Brazil where I knew I was at that point I was still backup dancing for like Missy and all of these people, but that was the first time that me as an actor and me as a dancer was like put on. It was a commercial and it's corny and it's cheesy and it's all of those things, but it was the first blend of that, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this.
Can you do it?
And then I went back and I started to make beats. I was doing a little bit before because I was a tomboy, and you make beats and you skateboard, and that's what you do in LA on Melrose. Like, you're just like making beats, and it just was fun for me. I wanted to be like Pharrell. I had no intention of being this necessarily. I wanted to be like Missy, but not even rap. But I think it was after that, when I got back to the States, I started to really like use that money to buy all of this recording studio equipment. I didn't know anyone. I was like some broke kid in some like single mother household living in some shitty apartment in Hollywood, knew no one, had no money. But the money I did make, I just flooded my mom's apartment with equipment. There was no room. And every time like the motif came, I had to get the motif, like I had to get a bigger monitor. I had to get all of these things. And then I started.
And you learned by yourself?
I learned by myself until I couldn't, until I was like, well, now I need to like record, and I don't really like it, and I need to like, figure it out. So I ended up buying more equipment and then going to school for it. But it was more important that I knew how to make music before just like running around. And then I would make a bunch of CDs of my beats and burn the CDs. And then I would go take really like cheap, shitty flights to New York and go stay with my friend Janina. And she would help me get on the trains, and I would go to different labels and just drop off my beats. I'm sure they all ended up in the trash. But then that's when I met, I think it was like 2007, I met will.i.am. I didn't know who he was. I had some like gig at some club. I'm sure I like snuck in, you know what I mean? I would hide in the bathrooms of these clubs just to go look at acts and stuff or whatever. And I remember telling will.i.am, you know, I make beats. You know, I didn't really know who he was, but I kind of knew. And that's when I sent him a record called Girls. And it was kind of like the Cyndi Lauper version of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but it was like the MIA. You know MIA, the Sri Lankan rapper? It was kind of like that style. It was like, girls, they want to have fun. I ended up revamping it and putting it on that last album. But he was like, why don't you come to the studio with me? Just come and hang out. I was like, tomboy. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And it's just like be me, him, and the engineer, right? And I remember he played me My Humps. And I was like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. I hate it, you know. Ended up being a huge hit, so what do I know? But he was like, you know, he was kind of the first person that kind of brought me in as I just wanted to be like a beat maker and rapper. We wanted to do this group, and then, you know, it didn't happen, and, you know, he flaked out.
And you did DJing too.
Huh?
I've heard that you
that's how I started at 14 from the Boys and Girls Club. So while my mom was working, she would drop me off at the Boys and Girls Club, which is in America, it's like an after school kind of program for, you know, orphan children. I'm just kidding. It's a great place. You know, it's a great place. Obviously, I learned how to DJ there, but I mean DJ. Like, I'm an old school girl. Like, I learned how to DJ Wu-Tang Clan and Tribe Called Quest and all of these kind of like, that's what introduced me to my understanding of even producing records, of blending sounds and understanding tempos and things like that. Cause I like still have all of this, I still have all of those records, like Diggable Planets, all of these like old school, really good hip hop records. I have all of them.
On vinyls?
On vinyls. Yeah. So yeah.
That's hard.
Ooh.
So, and you still live in LA?
No, fuck LA. Hate LA. LA is, so many fake people live in LA. I don't know what happened, but I shot the show in Georgia, and I loved Georgia. I loved Atlanta. I loved the energy of the music of Atlanta. It was like, you know, it was like Outkast, like all of these like cool dudes, you know. It's where James Brown was doing his thing, and all of this kind of soul, like a lot of soul. And people kept it,
Atlanta.
yeah, people kept it real, and people that looked like me were like flourishing. And every time I would go back to LA, I was even like a little more famous, and people started to just be weird. And I was like, I want people to treat me, just be cool to be cool. And Atlanta is the cool of the cool. So yeah, I live in Atlanta still.
I didn't know why I asked you that, because you live in São Paulo, okay? Right?
No, thank you. Yeah, I live in São Paulo.
Paulistana.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry.
I was also going to ask that because I lived in LA for a couple of months back in 2008, and I tried to get what the city offers, and I really have a hard time in LA because
a lot of people have a hard time in LA. A lot of artists have a hard time in LA. A lot of actors, and listen,
musicians,
and listen, like everyone has their own vibe, you know. I think LA, I would say after 2 or 3 days, you start doubting yourself. You start to like compare yourself to other artists. Oh, I'm not as successful, or that person has more money, that person has more success, that person is younger than me, that person is more beautiful, that person this and that. And everyone's doing it to themselves. And it's something about LA. I don't like LA. Like, I don't like it. People think I live there. I'm like, what about me makes you think I live in LA? I'm a Georgia girl. Like, I live 15 minutes away from a grocery store with like 7 animals and my husband who teaches meditation. Like, I am not an LA person. I want to just do my art and go home. You know, I'm not about the bullshit.
Your husband, he teaches meditation?
Breath work, yeah, and meditation.
Really?
So he couldn't be any farther removed from, you know, the industry. But he likes his music. You know, I caught him like last week listening to Limp Bizkit.
Really?
Yeah, so he's kind of in his like punk rock phase with music. He also loves international music, so I've been introducing him to a lot of like Brazilian music.
You should introduce him Dead Fish.
Dead Fish, yeah.
Oh yeah.
please,
No,
please,
Dead
Break
Fish is
Stuff
dope.
was
Yeah.
inspired.
He probably already knows Dead
That's
Fish.
too Brazilian.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, for sure. No, we're gonna have a little Dead Fish party when we get back home for
Oh,
sure.
okay.
For sure.
I was. You're talking about LA. I studied in San Diego.
San Diego's cool.
Yeah.
They're cool
I
there.
went there.
That's
I-
cool.
I-
San Diego's cool.
Yeah, I studied in San Diego, and I really liked those months I lived there, and I spent one weekend in LA, and at the end of the Sunday I was like, okay, that's enough for me.
It feels like that, and it's
I'm-
sad because I grew up in LA. I grew up in Hollywood, like skateboarding to auditions and making beats and like and you would think that the place that you're from you would like, but I think I miss the days when I was just making beats in the bedroom, and no one gave a shit, because now LA gives a shit, but in the wrong way. Because I'm famous, they only like, couldn't get into a restaurant, and then they're like, somebody whispers to somebody else, oh, you know what that is, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, right this way, Miss Graham. It's like, ugh. I'd rather like tell me to fuck off and like I'll go eat at the taco stand, so there's a lot of that kind of like, so I don't want to be around that. I just want to be, seen for who I am. And
Yeah, and we are running out of time. If you want to use these last seconds to say something that we didn't ask that's important for...
just, Brazil has my heart for sure. Brazil is a huge part of my understanding of who I am as an artist, as a music artist, even as an actor, as a wife, as a dancer, So just thank you, Brazil. Thank you for having me.
And take this gift from us here in Brazil.
I'm telling you guys, I get paid in peanuts. These I haven't seen though. These are big.
Yeah.
This is a huge paçoquinha, please.
Paçoca de rolha, que chama.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Miss Graham, thank you for your time.
This was
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks
This
for
is one
this
of my
program.
favorite interviews. I wasn't sure because you guys are like such men. I was like, what do they want with me? What are we going to talk about? But this is, we talked about things that no one ever asks.
Yeah, we just want to talk.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
Just a conversation.
Thanks
I loved
again.
it. This was one of my favorite interviews I've ever done.
Thank you so
thank
much for
you
your
very
time.
Like in my
much.
life.
Yeah, for your kindness, and especially from your work. You make a lot of people happy with your work, and thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Obrigada.
Ciao, de nada.
Obrigado.
Obrigada, mano.
Almost a Brazilian. More Brazilian than me, once again. Lembra de seguir a gente nas redes sociais. Terra Entreter, Mário, Luiz, todo mundo. Segue todo mundo e obrigado. Acho que é isso. Valeu.
Até a próxima, muito obrigado. Esse episódio foi sensacional. Nos vemos numa próxima. Abraço.
10 de 10.